Hi, this is Eric Kampmann, and this is Sunrise, and I'm with Senior Pastor Chuck Davis.
We're talking about Eric's book, Getting to Know Jesus, which will soon be released. Eric, we come to that moment when the glory of Jesus is pre-seen by a couple of the disciples who are with him at the Transfiguration.
We've talked about this before, but one of the words that come to mind for me in the story itself is the idea of witnessing. Peter, James, and John have gone up to this mountain with them, and the top becomes obscured, and they're in a cloud, and then they see Jesus walking with Moses and Elijah, I believe, and they witness something that seems extraordinary, supernatural. They don't know how to respond to it, actually. They say, well, let's stay here. Let's stay at the mountaintop. This is what we were looking for. But Jesus always leaves the mountaintop. He left heaven, and he leaves this, and he goes back after the Sermon on the Mount. He goes back into the world where there is disease and affliction and war and trouble, because that's his ultimate ministry.
And plus, he understands that this is a picture for this inner core. These three get to experience things that the other disciples do not experience. And it's part of Jesus preparing them to be significant leaders in the church in the early movement. But in this moment, they're getting a glimpse of his glory. And there's almost a natural reflex to want to stay in that glorious moment. I think we often feel it when we go away on retreat or have an incredible experience on pilgrimage or some aspect of our journey that's different than our normal everyday. Somehow you want to capture it and bottle it. But those are simply God's grace moments in our life to fill us up and give us courage to get back down in the valley and to serve others who haven't had the privilege of that insight to God's glory.
Yeah, I think one time when we were speaking maybe in the podcast, we talked about all of us being leaking vessels, and that Sunday worship, part of what it's all about is being filled up with the Holy Spirit, and then using it throughout the week, the next 6 days, before you need to be filled up again. Yeah. And the other thought I had is exactly what you're talking about. The wanting to capture the moment of worship when it's at its highest, that everything is working and you feel totally in the moment. I used to go to a church in New York City, and the worship was so profound, the music was so wonderful, and then I'd go, after it was over, I'd just sit there for a while, and then I'd go back into the streets of New York, and it was like the noise of the street, the honking, the people flooding here and there, and it was like such a stark contrast to what I had been experiencing in this church.
And the challenge in our journey is not to live from peak experience to peak experience, to allow those peak experiences to fill us up, but then to live out of the fullness of what God is doing in us in the day-to-day, for the benefit of the people who don't get the peak experiences that we get.
This is Eric Kampmann, and this has been Sunrise.